All of it is on the path. All of it is the qualification. All of it counts. You're listening to Speak Mother, a podcast about reclaiming your voice, your identity, and your truth inside modern motherhood. I'm your host, Shannon Warner. Let's get into it. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here. So you may have noticed something a little different today. This episode is dropping as episode 86, not episode 15, and I want to talk about why. When I relaunched Speak Mother earlier this year, I reset the episode count back to 1. It was a fresh start, a new direction, a clean slate. And it made sense at the time, but I've been sitting with how off it has felt since. Here's the thing. I didn't start over. I evolved. And there are 70 plus episodes behind this version of the show that took real work and real courage and real iteration to make. Pretending they didn't exist felt like doing myself what I would never let one of my clients do. Erase the proof of how far they'd come just because their path wasn't completely straight. So we're counting from here. All of it counts. And that's actually what this episode is about. Not just the episode number, but the bigger truth underneath it. That reinventing yourself after motherhood isn't starting over. It never was. And if you've ever felt like your messy or nonlinear or pivot heavy path somehow disqualifies you, I need you to stay with me today. I'm about to tell you my story, and it might sound a little like yours. So this podcast is about identity reclamation for mothers, and it would feel dishonest not to share my own story inside of it. Not because this is about me, but because I think when one of us tells our truth out loud, it gives the rest of us permission to claim ours. So here it is. I was a teacher, 2 degrees and a load of student debt. That part was very much planned. But leaving education, not planned. Landing in operations, not planned. Entrepreneurship, definitely not planned. And all of it was necessary. And for a long time, I had carried this quiet shame about the zigzag, like I should have known sooner, gotten there faster, picked a lane, and stayed in it. But I've learned motherhood has a way of burning away the stories that were never really yours to begin with. On Sunday, I was Shannon. On Monday, I had a baby. And by Friday, my entire world had been completely rocked. Like, holy fucking shitballs. What just happened? Rocked. I thought I would be the same person. I was smart. I was prepared. I had read the books. I had a plan. I was ready. Friend, I was not ready. Because nobody tells you that becoming a mother isn't additive. It's not Shannon plus baby who also identifies as mother. It's full dissolution. It's becoming the life force for another helpless human being while your own life force is running on empty. And then somebody hands you a bill for full-time work on top of that and expects you to smile. It cracked me wide open. It made me question everything. The world I was living in, the systems I had been operating inside of without question, the version of myself I had carefully constructed, all of it was up for review. And then my dad died. And 2.5 weeks later, my second daughter was born. And I was cracked wide open all over again. Postpartum, grieving, in a new town where I didn't know anyone, with a newborn and a toddler. I've talked about my dad on this podcast before, but I want to tell you who he really was. Anyone who knew the Ron Hodge could tell you he had a larger-than-life spirit. He was large in every sense. Tall, big guy, adventurous. He earned his private pilot's license before his driver's license as a teenager. He did over 75 jumps out of airplanes as a skydiver. He lifted boats and motorcycles and fast cars. He had this big, booming voice, loud laugh. He lived big and he loved big. Any friend or family member knew exactly how loved they were by him, not always through his words, but always through his actions. He was my cheerleader. He was my friend. And he called me his best work. And his loss left a Ron Hodge-sized hole in my heart and in my life that I carry with me still. But here's what I've come to understand. And I say this with so much love for him. My dad loved me fiercely. And sometimes that love looked like protection. And sometimes that protection looked like watering down my ideas, questioning my dreams, redirecting my ambitions towards something safer, something more certain, something that wouldn't risk breaking my heart. He did it because he adored me. I know that. And as a mom now, I understand. And even into my 30s, his voice was in the room when I was making big decisions. That first year without him was absolutely brutal. Survival mode like you cannot imagine. Postpartum, working full time, handling my dad's estate as the only child of a single man, and it was a mess. Everything was a mess, and I had no idea what I was doing. Every holiday, every milestone, painful and two directions. Celebrating 1 month, celebrating 2 months, 6 months of my newborn, while also holding the weight of exactly how long he had been gone. And then, right around my daughter's first birthday, 1 year since he left, the fog started to lift just enough for me to catch my breath. And then I got laid off. 8 years I gave that company. 8 years in a place with high turnover meant I had outlasted almost everyone except the partners and upper management. I was loyal to a fault. And that could have broken me. And honestly, for a minute, it did. But here's what I know now. Grief has a way of burning away everything that isn't yours. And when the smoke cleared, on the other side of postpartum and the loss and the fog and the layoff, what was left was finally fully me. Around that time, I had enrolled in a program that cradled me through that transition, and it changed my life. And that's where the breadcrumbs started. It started with an activity. The facilitator wanted us to go through the motions of starting a podcast, not to start one necessarily, but to see what kind of blocks and limiting beliefs we'd bump up against along the way, especially around our voice. And after that week, I thought, that was fun. I think I might have something here. So I taught myself everything: how to record, how to edit, how to publish, how to interview. And I launched the Having a Mom Moment podcast and set off on what has become my favorite adventure outside of my partner and my kids. And then I bumped into a woman who needed help with her podcast, a skill I had taught myself. And I thought, I could do that. Boom. Professional podcast producer. Referrals came in, more clients. I was helping women launch and produce their shows, encouraging everyone to start a podcast. And over time, I began to understand something bigger. Podcasting isn't just content. It's a body of work. It's an authority engine. It's the thing that makes invisible expertise visible. And the more time I spent around women entrepreneurs, working with them, learning alongside them, watching them navigate their own pivots and pauses, the more I noticed a pattern. Previous careers written off as irrelevant, hard-won experience left on the table, whole bodies of work just waiting to be claimed because nobody had told them it all counted. I didn't have a master plan. I followed what felt fun, what felt good, what felt energizing, and every single breadcrumb led me exactly here. So when I reset that episode count to 1, I think I was doing to myself what the world has been doing to women and mothers for far too long. Telling us that the messy middle doesn't count, that any detours disqualify us, that reinvention means starting over from scratch. And it doesn't. Your teaching career counts. Your operations experience counts. The years you spent figuring out what you didn't want, those count. The version of you that was blindsided by motherhood counts. The version of you that is still in the thick of it counts. The pivot counts. The pause counts. The slow crawl back to yourself counts. All of it is on the path. All of it is the qualification. All of it counts. So I want to ask you something before we close. What version of yourself are you tempted to erase? What part of your story feels too messy or too nonlinear to claim? What would change if you counted all of it? Not just the parts that look good on paper or make up a nice resume. Just sit with that. If this episode resonated, if your own story has more chapters than you've been giving yourself credit for, I would love to hear from you. There's a link in the show notes where you can send me a voice note or a message and tell me what you're reclaiming. I genuinely would love to know. And if you've been sitting on a podcast idea or you've built something with your voice and you're not sure how to leverage it, podcast strategy sessions are my jam. 60 minutes, your vision gets clear, your next steps get mapped. The link is in the show notes. Thank you for being here for this one. It was an important one for me to say out loud. I love you, and I'll see you back here next week. Oh, before you go, I am building a summer series for Speak Mother, and I need your help picking the topics. I've got 16 mini permission slip style episodes, and I want you to vote on which ones make the cut. Head to my Instagram or to Threads, link in the show notes, and cast your votes. Polls are live now. I'll see you there. Thanks for listening to Speak Mother. If this resonated, share it with a friend, and don't forget to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Keep speaking your truth. I'll meet you back here soon.